Hi, this is Terry Modica of Good News Ministries, and we are continuing the series. This is the third video in the series of multiple videos on the masculine revival of faith. Specifically, that means the Gen Z young men are coming into the church at a faster rate than Gen Z women and previous generations of young men. So this is exciting, and we would like to share with you the wisdom from Nick Clune. He is with us today, our special guest. He is a certified mentor and partner with Catholic Psych Institute, and he has a website called Crafted for More, in which he helps young men become all that God designed them to become. And so, welcome, Nick. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's an exciting topic that you're covering with this series that I don't think many people are really drawing too much attention to. I maybe you hear it on some news cycles and stuff like that in like Fox News or whatever the case may be or whatnot, but not too many people in the church are giving attention to the fact that there are a lot of young men coming into the church in Gen Z. I think it's an awesome topic.
That's why we're doing this, because I'm not aware of anybody else focusing on this. And when I first saw the statistics come out in the regular news media,
Hmm.
and I dug into it more to get, to get the source statistics, and I put that into a newsletter. I have a newsletter call on our the Good News Ministries website, gnm.org. You can get to Ministry Excellence is the name of the newsletter. You can get to it there or on LinkedIn. And just look for me on LinkedIn, and you'll be able to get to the Good News Ministries LinkedIn page where the newsletter is. And the first issue of the newsletter on this topic gives all the statistics and the source statistics. So anybody who is just joining us now for the first time on this topic, please look up that initial issue so that you can get more information about it. And our goal in Good News Ministries is to talk to people who are either a Gen Z young man themselves who have come into the church, or they're people who are working with them. And so
Yeah.
that our goal being to help parishes and dioceses and lay ministries of evangelization to realize that we have a wonderful opportunity right now that we haven't had for ever in my lifetime. And it's we don't want to miss this window of opportunity.
Yeah.
Nick, what can you tell us about this?
Yeah. I think it's to your point, an opportunity where the church can really minister to a population where they're not terribly used to ministering to. I was youth minister prior to jumping into the Catholic psych world for 7 years, and then did my certification education with Catholic psych, and now I'm a mentor with them. But in that time frame, I felt that shift of as a youth minister, younger youth minister, it was always like you're going to have a female heavy youth ministry. There's going to be more girls than guys. Well, that was never the case with my ministries. It was always guy heavy. And part of that was like I give the stereotypical kind of like guy type. I've got a beard. My journey through faith involves sports. It's like there's a lot of things that my story communicates that relates to a lot of men. But it was also like this time frame where we were starting to see that shift, where there were more um, young men that were jumping in these youth groups, and then even into the young adult world. Um, like that was the case too. I was like a young adult youth minister, or not youth minister, but coordinator, director of ministry, whatever you want to call it. And again, it was like a 5-to-1 ratio, and it's just like this is crazy. Why are we having so many men jump in here? And then to move from that question of why is this a thing to like actually like capitalizing it, like there's real gifts here. Like we can really benefit from influx of like the masculine genius in ministry. Um, where for years I feel like the answer for men a lot of times has been to check out. And like this is just a woman's thing, like the faith thing. Like mom runs the show, and then she drags the kids along. Sometimes drags dad along. That's part of my story. That's how I grew up. But it was, mom's like, we're going to this retreat. We're going to XYZ, and dad was just kind of there along for the ride until he had a conversion later in life and and changed. But it's like my experience growing up wasn't too atypical, where a lot of times moms drove the car of faith, and now with this uptick of Gen Zs, like being more interested in the faith, like what an opportunity to have not just mom driving it, but like as these kids grow up and this generation grows up and gets married, like both parents driving the faith. There's a stat out there, and this might be old, but like comes from Pew Research on like um, 93% of the time when dads are involved in kids' faith lives, and like helping pass along the faith, like then the kids stay faithful, right? And then it's like the other times it's like they don't stay faithful. And it's not to disparage like mom's work. Moms have beautiful um, relationships with the faith and they're able to pass that along. But there's something about dad and relating to the outside world that gets missed.
That's a zap. Zap. Let's have a zap face bolt on that one. Yes.
I like that Zap Facebook. That's fun.
But didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt. Keep going.
No, 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 you're good. I just like I think it's such a unique opportunity for dads, like or men as they become dads or priests, to have a more integrated reality in home life where it is not just mom, but mom and dad. And like that's it's definitely been the case. There's definitely dads out there who are already doing that. But what an opportunity with this generation coming into the faith, like to fully live that out. And it is exciting. And yeah, my mind starts to go to different areas of like why I love to ponder the why. Why men
That
in
was my
today's
next
society?
question. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was what I wanted to ask you next is why do you think this shift is happening?
Yeah. I think it has something to do with like this desire to know the truth of things. I feel like the younger generation is very they find it very grounding to be able to understand what's going on. And it's maybe a part of the tech revolution. I don't think I can't give any like surefire answer, just like kind of Nick's theoretic thoughts, but I feel like if I had to look at the average Gen Z guy coming into the faith, he's probably really attracted to the faith's tradition and roots, and then like the intellectual side of it. I feel like there's something there that you can get on YouTube in today's world and learn so much about the faith. And one of the things that YouTubers like to say is like if you pursue the truth, you're more than likely going to end up in the Catholic faith. You're more than likely going to end up in this realm of like choosing like a Christian reality of like God being the answer, not purely from like an emotional standpoint, but an intellectual standpoint. And for men, I think that's something that is particularly relevant where more times than not, generally speaking, painting with like large strokes here, men like tend to be the doers. They have the larger part of the brain called the TPJ, the temporal parietal junction, where that's like the doing part of the brain. If I can fix the problem, then my anxiety goes down. Women, on the other hand, are more in the mirror neuron system. We have both. Like I have a mirror neuron system, even though I'm a man, but it tends to be smaller because I am a man. And women have the flip where they have a larger mirror neuron system, which is all driven about connection, all driven about relating to people and emotions. And that's how they
Mhm.
experience women more times than not. A reduce in anxiety is this connecting. So men are
Mhm.
driven to like problem solve, women are driven to connect. Um, you can have the opposite on either side, right? You can have a woman who finds the problem. Like my wife is very pragmatic. We come from a German farm town, small farm town, met in high school. She's very much the, if we solve the problem, then I don't have as much anxiety. So she's opposite um, than what the norm is. But why do we see it in large pockets of young men? I feel like there is an answer to their problems being given. by a lot of intellectual YouTubers, a lot of people who are pointing to like this is the truth. And for a long time in society, I feel like we've been kind of rumbling down this road where we don't know exactly what objective truth is. A lot of this idea of like pointing to, I make my own kind of reality and I don't need to point to anything else. I just need to think about it long enough for my own self. And as a culture, we're hungry for something that's more grounded, more objective. And we're almost seeing like a flip, like a shooting in the other direction of these young men coming up through the
Yeah,
like
that's what my research and the interviews I've been doing with people are definitely showing, is that after decades of and so with that is the word generations as well, after generations of um, masculinity being torn down by liberal feminism, and the society increasingly moral relativistic, where whatever you believe, that's true for you. And so the uncertainty of, well, what is truth?
yeah.
It's um I've found that that a commonality amongst everybody that I've been interviewing in this series is that everybody's finding that young men, the Gen Z men today, are like tired of that, all that uncertainty, and want to have a truth that they know is not going to change on them, and is something they can depend on, and they don't have to worry about, is this true or not? Am I going to feel differently someday, or whatever? And this is why the Catholic Church is very appealing. It's
Yeah.
because here's our rules, here's our moral teachings, here's our our doctrines, and here's our faith, and it doesn't change, and it hasn't changed for over 2,000 years. It's evolved, it's developed into deeper meanings, deeper understandings, but it hasn't changed. And on
Yeah.
top of that, the it's a very masculine church. Although yes, women are acknowledged as having leadership skills, and there are a lot of good, powerful um, women leaders in the church. But
Hmm.
it is still a masculine church, with the Pope being a man and the priests always being men, and there's no question it's going to remain that way. And so that's what I've been hearing, is what one of the things that's really attractive to the Gen Z men today. So
Hmm.
I think so I'm going to make a statement and have you respond to it, Nick. I think that any parish that puts on events that is like open to the neighborhood, open to the community, about what does the Catholic Church actually teach about these issues that we've been afraid to talk about before because there was so much controversy about it. But if we stop being fearful about that and go ahead and put on these events, advertise it so that the young men find out about it, I think our churches are going to become filled up with a lot of eager new Catholics. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's understandable on churches' parts to be a little hesitant. Like in today's world, there's so many anti-Christian like messages being thrown out there, and it's like we feel like we have to walk on eggshells, and a lot of times priests are put in that position where they feel like they have to please everyone. And a lot of that comes from like their own woundedness. A lot of that comes from like, even, the recent like I mean, I say recent, it's within the last 20 years when like the big stories broke, but like the sex scandal, right? That broke, and like priests have felt like their hands have been tied since. Like, what, I can't do anything. I can't, I have to conform to like my bishop, which is always good, but we should practice obedience, but also conform to like media because every little step that I take feels like I could be going across the line, and like I don't want that because of all the news cycles coming about Catholic priests and stuff like that. So it's like it's understandable that there's a hesitancy to be bold in that, but the ones that have been being bold and going in and talking about, this masculine resurgence, like coming up in the church or any other like hot topic, we generally see like a pretty good response to that. People want to flock to, the stuff that they're all thinking, we're all thinking, but no one's really saying. And so like priests who have that courage to say that, and then like also like the be able to hold the nuance of a both and, because what we're experiencing in society and in the church to some degree by large is like this constant like overshoot back and forth. So like for a long time we experienced perhaps like too much of like an American patriotic, not patriotic, but individualism and like this desire for like freedoms like could become warped in some sort of way. But what I'm trying to say is like there was this overshoot where like there was maybe a society once upon a time that was misogynistic. Like, and we look back at early 1900s, and then we introduced women's suffrage, and I'm like, that's not a bad thing. Sometimes I'll joke with people. It's like it all, if we just like it all went wrong there. It's like, well, it really didn't. Like that's a good thing. Like the fact that my wife can vote and she has kind of an equal say in some things like that. Like I don't think it's a bad thing. People can feel free to disagree if they want, but what happens is we overshoot as a society into like this ultra feminism where women are now the superior ones in society. And what the Catholic Church is trying to affirm in a lot of ways is like, no, like there's this both and, like there's equal dignity among women and men. And if we don't acknowledge that, we're going to have this perpetual flux back and forth, back and forth. And so it's good to have the church come in, like you're saying, like if a priest would host an event in his parish and be like, no, actually, it's a good thing that men are men, just like it's a good thing that women are women, like, and be able to speak into that and affirm, and not just affirm, like what we're also seeing, and I've been like talking to some folks online too with a lot of the LGBTQ like movement. I'm really sympathetic towards like folks who are struggling in that area because it's like they're pointing to some sort of discontent, and it's like in my opinion, like the agenda that's given to them isn't enough. Like there should be a Catholic answer that is given to them that answers the question in a better way than either right or left politics can answer, right? The right says is like one thing and the left says another thing, and it's just like, what do I actually believe? It's like there's a Catholic answer here where we can actually help people find like a deeper understanding of their experience. So anyway, that's that's a little tangent on like I think there's a lot that we can get stuck in, and I think that's relatable to Gen Z men because it's like they see the polarization of today's politics, and maybe Gen Z do tend to fall into more of the traditional right-wing camps when it comes to the political spectrum. But what the Catholic Church does is it transcends that polarity. Like they're like, we're here to give an
That
objective grounding.
that's a faith bolt there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's like it's exhausting, like to be on because all these men who are on like social media, they see it everywhere. Like the right saying this, the left saying that. And like what's really the answer here? Like is what a lot of guys are wrestling with. And to the point, go back to the original statement, it's like I do think a lot of people would flock to that if like parishes were holding events where they were able to speak into that.
Yeah, and you found, in addition to being a mentor for young men, you founded Crafted for More as a ministry of your own. And and that's for, as you say on your website, your homepage, it's for men to become what God created them to be in their fullest capacity. What made you start that ministry? How did that get started?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have had heart to go into ministry for most of my life. I was to give a brief story, a short story. It's like when I was 17, I started to really think about some like of the bigger life questions um, in a shocking way, because it's like as a high schooler, you don't expect to ask big life questions. But when that happened was like I centered most of my life on like sports. That was how I created my identity. It came from a small farm town, Ohio, like school system, and sports was highly highly praised. And I was like, if I can get good at sports, then I have some value, is what I can see. Like I didn't think that explicitly growing up. Like I was just like, I just want to be good at sports, right? And that's what my reality was built around. And then I had a shoulder injury my junior year, and the initial prognosis was that I was going to be out for the whole season, and I was devastated because it's like this is what I was been building towards. Like I finally got to start on varsity, finally got to play the sport, this football game that I'd always been longing to play since like a 6 year old, right? And here I am, I can't play, and it started to sit with me and ask questions like, what is life about? And that led to this moment where I had this encounter with our Lord in a time of prayer where he was able to speak to me in such a gentle way of like, hey, you're more than sports. Like you're more than your ability to succeed. You're more than your ability to do like you're my son, and like that's what gives you worth and value. One of the quotes from John Paul II that resonates with me deeply is this um the you are not the sum of your faults and weaknesses or failures. You are the sum of the Father's love for you, your real capacity to become an image of him, right? Something to that effect. I paraphrased a little bit, but that's always resonated deeply with me because it's like, yeah, I my worth isn't contingent on what I'm doing. And like that's what frees me to do the work that I do. Like that's what frees anyone to do the work that they do, is like this greater acceptance of who it is that God's called them to be, because it allows us to move past any fears of failure, any fears that like get us like trapped in our own minds of like, will this be good enough? Will this be um like worth my time? What will my dad think of this? What will other men think of this? Like those questions that we have circling in our minds all of a sudden like are quieted when we can place that in our Lord's hands. And so that led me into this journey of taking some like risk and jumping into the Catholic psych world. I was a youth minister, found out about the Catholic Psych program where they're training folks in psychology, spirituality, and anthropology, what the study of what makes us human, to then go out and help people become who they are. John Paul II's one of his favorite phrases, "Become who you are." What he means there is like, how are you taking everything that lies in your actuality and bringing it into potentiality, right? What is it that's underneath the surface that makes you who you are, the saint that you are, that isn't fully realized? And how can you pull that out and like really live in that? And I'm still like, we're all works in progress. Like me working with guys, like I'll be the first to admit that. Like I'll talk to them on my calls and be like, hey, yeah, like I'm a work in progress, but that doesn't mean like that we stop growing. Like we continue to like allow ourselves to face those different areas of woundedness. So
Yeah, and let me throw a little commercial into here. Um, that's why I wrote my book called The Father's Heart, because we we really don't know who we are
yep.
until we know who we are to God. And we have so many misconceptions about God's fatherhood because we project onto God what human fathers have been. And for example, if the human dad didn't find faith very important, then, what kind of relationship do we have with God the Father? Faith's not that important. Like you mentioned earlier, that statistics, you talked about the Pew Research Foundation statistics, and the Pew has been reporting this for years and years, that the the amount of involvement the dad has in the faith life of the kids, the amount that he is actually living the faith himself, is, the kids grow up not only re, usually returning to the faith if they leave it, and or sticking with the faith, and they also grow up to be, much fewer involved in crime and drugs and all that kind of stuff. It makes a big difference. And so but my book, is about the getting to know how we are misconceiving God's fatherhood based on our misconceptions from, uh, projecting onto God what humans are like,
Yeah.
and being healed of that, so that we can become all that God created us to be. And so I just wanted to throw that commercial. It's The Father's Heart, and people can find it at the website tothefathersheart.com. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I'm also trying to get that out amongst the people. And so,
Yeah.
but sorry for the interruption. I
No,
do have, okay.
I think it's important. It's important work that's like what so many men struggle with in faith in general. I know we're talking about Gen Z, but like if we step away from them for a minute, why do so many of older generations struggle with like living their faith out well? A lot of this is like cascading generational effects, maybe even going back to World War II, where men were growing up. We had this weird invention of teenagers back in World War II when men went off to war and women were working in the factories. And what happened to your teenagers? Well, I guess we'll go throw them in school, right? And like all of a sudden we have all these high schools start to pop up across like the public school system because we need a place to put these teenagers. And what happens in that is like there's this absentee like father, even when they come back from the war, if they come back from the war, like they're a changed man. A lot of these guys are coming back with a lot of psychological woundedness because war changes a guy, changes the man. And from that, you see this cascading effect of generational wounds of dads just being checked out. Dads not being able to provide what they desperately probably want to provide, but they don't know how because there's this like chain of not having a good example of like what does it actually look like in practicality to provide for my family the way that I want to. And so, to your point, it's like if I've never see that from my own dad, how am I ever supposed to see that in my faith life? And so God to so many men out there, and maybe even Gen Z to some degree, feels so distant, feels so foreign, feels so like yeah, you're there, but like I don't have a relationship with you. Or yeah, you're there, but that's just to hold the rules and make sure that I get my ass or sorry, I don't know if you but I run a podcast too. I'm a little more explicit, so if you have to bleep me there, I
You're
apologize.
fine. You're fine.
But it's like I have to get my butt in line to like follow dad's rules. And that's like a lot of time like what people like picture dad is, and then they project it onto the father. And so I think that's really important work that you're saying. And I think even for Gen Z guys, men who are coming into the faith, like something really important to wrestle with because, kind of to go back to my work with Crafted for More for a minute, like I want to help men become the full versions of themselves, the saint versions of themselves. What a powerful like movement in church we can have, and why you're doing the series if Gen Z doesn't just stop with this conversion point, but also like keeps going, right? Also keeps this, noticing their work in progress and then want to pursue greatness, want to pursue sainthood, and not for greatness sake, but for like the Lord's sake. The Lord wants us to be saints. He wants us to go out there and change the world. He wants us to go out there and make disciples of all nations, to be good dads, to be good husbands, to be good fathers, right? Like this is what he calls us to. And we need to look at what's getting in the way of us actually living our life in a more full way. And for Gen Z, and I imagine a lot of guys out there who might be listening, one of the biggest areas that I work with men in is overcoming lust. Like there's so many high numbers of porn addiction in today's society that's getting worse and worse with technology on this constant re revolution, like one thing after the next. And now we're here into AI and who knows what's after AI. Like no one thought the iPhone was coming and that came and now AI is here. So there's always something new coming, but it's always like sin's boring, right? The devil's boring. He only knows how to attack us in so many ways. And one of the biggest ways that he tends to keep men checked out, keep them left in mediocrity is through lust. And that's what we see a lot of. And that's what I am fortunate in my own story, like my own journey of overcoming addiction. Like I share that with a lot of guys on the podcast that I run. Um, am able to get in there with men and help them see like, okay, what is really going on here? I know you've tried using accountability partners, filters, other programs out there, and they all have left you short. Even like going to confession, which go to confession. We should always like go to the sacraments. It's a beautiful thing. Uh, but it can leave you left wanting for something more because this addiction's hanging in there. And that's where I love the background that I received training wise from Catholic Psych, where it's like there's something deeper going on here. The porn isn't really the problem. The masturbation isn't really the problem. It's a symptom of a deeper wound that's going on. A symptom of something that is actually like there's something deeper here that is causing you to choose a compulsive behavior. It's like any other compulsive addiction use, like alcohol or anything like that. There's always something deeper going on there. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to like, we're not justifying porn use or anything like that, but
So
we want to look at.
this is something that you help men with if they come to your website.
Correct. So yeah, if they go to crafterformore.com, the first step is always very, very low entry, free consultation call. We hop on the phone, I talk with the guy who's coming for help, and we kind of pinpoint, okay, what areas of life right now are getting in the way of you being who God's created you to be. And then I provide suggestions of like what's good steps forward. Is it working with me as a mentor? Is it finding a good spiritual director? Is it like, XYZ? So that first step's always this consultation of like, everyone's different. Let me hear your story. Let me get in there with you man to man and like hear what's going on and then present like here's options of working together. A lot of guys who do struggle with addiction, like I tend to specialize in that area, so like Mike, I can really help you kick this thing. Like I know what the science is behind it. I know that it's really hard to kick, but I know that like we can if we can get to that root, that like that's what's going to set you free. You're going to become more who God's created you to be.
And in that journey of what the men who come to, again, your website is craftedformore.com. In the journey that you lead them on, how does faith play into that? Are you finding that you've got non-churchgoers coming to you and they end up getting involved in church as they journey along?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the model is totally centered on Catholic anthropology. So like this understanding from the Catholic Church of what makes us human. So like Dr. Greg, the founder of the Catholic Psych Institute, likes to talk about like we have the blueprint of what makes us human. We should use that to help people instead of like just like using some sort of like guess at what a human being is. Like we have a lot of church tradition and history to look at like this is what a thriving, flourishing human being looks like. Let's work from that. And so the model's built on that, based on that. And by the nature of that, we tend to attract more Catholic people, more Christian people, like, and not so many like non-Catholic, non-Christian people. But like the model isn't limited to that. It's like it can help somebody. They just have to know that like we're coming from a explicitly Catholic understanding of what it means to be human. The model can still work for you, right? It's still like based on like we're integrating science, psychological sciences, and everything else like there is at our disposal to like move the needle forward for a person. We're always understanding the human person to be a human person in the lens of faith, and then what does it mean to be a flourishing like human person? What's our end goal? Like that's where we're shooting. And
That's excellent. That is really excellent. We are running out of time, but I just want to thank you so much for not only sharing with us, your insights and your ministry, but for having that ministry crafted for more. And you're not the only one who is offering, help with porn and all that kind of stuff, but I, you have a good combination. You were talking about anthropology and the whole understanding of what makes a human being a real human being, and helping men. I mean, that's my mission, is to help people become all that God created them to be. So I just
yeah.
want to applaud you for doing that. And I just want to thank you so much for being on the show. Is there in 1 minute or less, is there something you would like to really get across? What if there's nothing else that people remember from this episode, what would you like them to remember?
Yeah. I think it's just that, like what you were saying right at the end, like help people become who they are, like help them become like this full version of themselves. Why does that matter? It's because like God has called us to become saints. And I think that's like where I would just invite people to really pray on and consider like what does that really mean? It's what gives us purpose and drive and mission. So like guys who are just starting the faith, like the first kind of thing that attracts us to the faith maybe is that intellectual side of things, but what keeps us in it, what keeps us going is like there's so much purpose. Like my purpose is to be a Catholic psych mentor and have crafted for more. And like I love it. I love to walk with men and like help them discover ways that they need to like help themselves, work on themselves to become more who God's called them to be, to find that purpose. Um, but that purpose is what gives us meaning. And like there's nothing more grand than that. Is like this adventure of sainthood, journeying towards our forever home of heaven, right? That's what people need to hear more of, man or woman. And I'd love to walk with men in that particular way. That's the way the Lord's moved my heart. It's part of my story and journey, and I want to offer that to any man who's listening to this.
Thank you. And Good News Ministries, any man or woman listening to this, everything on the Good News Ministries, we have multiple websites for different purposes, and it's all basically geared for helping you become all that God designed you to be, and free from fear and free from everything that blocks you and holds you back from having a deep, deep, full relationship with not only Jesus, but the Holy Spirit and God the Father, the Father's heart. So thank you so much, Nick, for coming on and joining us. God
Thank
bless
you
you.
so much for having me.